Hi, I'm Cine Sports' Brian Clark, going first and 10, just like we do every week with Matt Hayes. He's the National College Football writer for Sporting News. Matt, let's start out west. The game of the week, it's Stanford hosting Oregon. Is this Stanford's moment in the sun to really make a statement?
Yeah, this is it, Brian. I mean, you look at the BCS poll, which none of us can understand, but we see it every week anyway. Somehow, Alabama, which lost LSU, did not drop below unbeaten Stanford. Now, you and I know that LSU and Alabama are probably the two best teams in the country. But the way poll voters vote, the unbeaten keeps moving up. Those who lose move down. It's interesting that Stanford did not move ahead of Alabama. And right now, they've got Oregon coming in. This is their chance on national television to show everyone what they got, instead of when they were on 85% of the television sets a couple weeks ago against USC and they nearly blew it. This is it. They win big here and they show what they've got. I think they'll jump Alabama. If they struggle again, I don't think they're going to move ahead of Alabama. And I think obviously if they lose to Oregon, they're done.
Much of the focus has been on the SEC West, and probably rightfully so. But in the East, Georgia has snuck up as a potential division title contender. What's led to this reinvention of Mark Richt's team?
I'll tell you what it is. It's the SEC snobs reinventing Georgia is what it is. Because, a couple of months ago when Boise State, that little team from Boise that plays on that funky blue turf, they can't beat anybody. Really, if they play tough people week after week, well, they beat Georgia by 2 touchdowns, and it was more like 4 touchdowns, okay? At the Georgia Dome, a home game for Georgia. And the response from the SEC crowd was, well, Georgia's overrated. Georgia's not what they used to be. Georgia is a team that's in transition. Mark Richt's going to be fired. Magically, Brian, 7 weeks later, Georgia's sitting there after a nice winning streak, and all of a sudden, Georgia's a heavyweight. All of a sudden, we're hearing the talking heads at ESPN say, wait a second, what if Georgia goes all the way to that game and upsets the SEC West Division champion? Then what? Well, then what is you have an SEC champion who lost to Boise State by 2 touchdowns. That's what.
That would be a mess. Now shifting to the SEC West, Houston Nutt out at the end of the season as head coach at Ole Miss. What led to this?
Well, I think he won with the other guy's players to start off with, Ed Orgeron, the guy who couldn't coach those players, but Houston Nutt figured out how to coach them for a couple of years. Couldn't recruit, oversigned, couldn't get players in school. Then this past year, at the beginning of this year, it was just textbook how to blow a coaching job. He imploded. It started with his AD going to a press conference after they lost to Vanderbilt. Then it continued with Houston blaming a writer, Brian, for picking Ole Miss to lose by 40-something. Great.
It's always the writer's fault, right, Matt?
It's always, Brian, always.
First and 10, Matt Hayes, Sporting News National College Football writer. Till next time, Matt. See ya.
Thanks, Brian.